So hopefully, if you're participating in this program, you have a little bit of backpacking experience and maybe even hopefully some winter camping experience, and you've already acquired a traditional classic 3-layer clothing system of synthetic or merino wool base layers with synthetic mid layers that are your active insulation layers, some waterproof breathable outer shells, and then some sort of puffy insulated jacket for your various previous endeavors. You already own a basic backpacking pack. Hopefully it's large enough volume and suitable. If not, it could be rented. And you also probably hopefully already have a suitable sleeping bag that maybe has a summer mountain temperature rating of, like, say, in the 30-degree range or something like that. If your sleeping bag's even not even that warm enough, you could still supplement your sleeping bag by just wearing all your clothes and your puffy jacket and things like that. The temperatures don't get particularly extreme in the summertime on these Cascade volcanoes. What I want to focus on right now are a couple of key pieces of gear that, if you don't have these items, you definitely need to have these particular required items. And then I have a few optional items that are nice to have, but they certainly, you could live without it, but they'll enhance your experience. So if you already own all the other things and you're looking for spending a little bit more money on a few things that may make your experience a little bit better, I'm going to talk and address those. The first one is you absolutely need some form of very dark sunglasses, often called glacier glasses. And they must have some sort of protection for any kind of side glare. They must fully wrap around, and they need to be quite dark. And these can be purchased from various online sources or specialty outdoor stores. If you have prescription lenses, as I wear, you certainly can get prescription glasses, although these are outrageously expensive. I do want to point out that anything you get needs to make sure you have some sort of a keeper strap. Even if you don't like wearing that type of thing, if you were to fall into a crevasse and your glasses were knocked off your head, you definitely would need them for the duration of the trip. So any kind of sunglasses you're wearing need to have some form of keeper strap. But these prescription glacier glasses are quite expensive. Fortunately, a scout mom told me about these a couple of years ago, and they are outstanding. And this is a case where I'm going to recommend a specific piece of gear. These are called cocoons, and they're meant as over sunglasses, and they fit quite nicely over your existing prescription glasses. They're comfortable, they block out the glare, they're plenty dark enough, and in fact I've used these on several glacier climbs quite successfully, and they run about $40. That's a really good price for a high quality, comfortable glacier glass that would fit over your normal prescription type glasses. They even come with a really nice little case. An optional accessory you can find online that I highly recommend are these nose pieces. This particular nose piece is from a company called Bico. You can find them online. And then my favorite is this one right here, which comes from a company called Noze, N-O-Z-E, Cone, K-O-N-E, I believe. So you absolutely have to have dark sunglasses that are appropriate for mountaineering. Another piece of gear that you must have, it's a requirement in my opinion, is some sort of gaiter. And the gaiter needs to be a slim, trim, sucks in the lower pant leg of your pants type of gaiter. Doesn't necessarily have to be this brand, but you know you're on the right course if you're buying gaiters from a company that offers them in multiple sizes. And so you're going to buy it according to your boot size. And the purpose of it, unlike winter camping where we're trying to keep snow out of the top of our boots and our lower leg dry, in a glacier mountaineering situation, generally that's not the problem. What we're trying to do here is suck in the whole lower leg of your pants and make it a more slim, trim profile so the crampon spikes are less likely to snag when you're walking. Another critical piece of gear is an appropriate handwear system. Low on the mountain, you're going to want to have some sort of liner type gloves typically to allow for the dexterity needed for lacing your boots, doing camp chores, pitching the tent, maybe doing some cooking, different things, photography or otherwise. And low on the mountain, I like wearing them for just sun protection on my hands when I'm slogging up a big snowfield. In the middle parts of the mountain, a lot of us are using a thing we refer to as a work glove. And a work glove is a windproof, soft shell, breathable, stretchy kind of fabric. Not waterproof, we want the breathability. And then has some sort of sometimes a light insulation or no insulation and some leather palm. And we're using, I like this category of glove to have a leather palm because we're dealing with sharp objects like ice axes, crampons, climbing ropes, belaying, rappelling. We're grabbing onto rock and different things. So having leather on this work glove category is a good thing. And ultimately, you're going to need some sort of warm glove system. And mittens are the least expensive way to get some sort of a functional shell system. The key thing with mittens is, well, with any shell system, is that the insulation needs to be removable. And the reason for that is your hands are going to sweat out, go into the inside insulation if it's a fixed glove or a fixed mitten, and then they're great that first day when they're dry and they don't have any kind of sweat absorbed into them. They work great. But then that night they'll freeze, and so they'll be worthless the following day. And there really is no way in a field situation to ever really get those gloves or mittens to dry out adequately. So the best way to deal with that is with some sort of a shell glove or shell mitten where the insulation's removable and you can put it in your sleeping bag and sleep in it at night. Doesn't matter if you're using wool mittens or wool gloves, they'll function just great in a rainier situation. Or your removable insulation could be in the form, more commonly, some sort of polyester fleece. The key thing here being just that it be a systems type of glove approach. An interesting glove I found from the fishing industry. This is a glove, you can find it if you go online and you shop fishing gloves. This one's from a company, a Japanese company called TEMRES, Tremez. 282-02 is the model. What's unique about it is, even though it looks like it's just a vinyl glove, is the vinyl in this case, or PVC material, is actually microporous and breathable. So it's waterproof, it's grippy and comfortable and flexible, but it also breathes. Your hand's not going to sweat out in this like it would a typical vinyl glove. It's lined with a polyester fleece, and because climbers and mountaineering and ski people were buying these, the fishing manufacturer decided to add an outdoor gauntlet, cinching gauntlet. And these sell in the $20 to $30 price range, and they're really excellent and they work quite well. So these are really required pieces of gear. Proper eye protection, gaiters that suck in your lower pant leg, and a proper handwear setup. Now the rest of the things that I'm going to show you are optional. You don't have to have these, but they're particular pieces of gear I highly recommend. So the first one is some form of soft shell pants. And soft shell pants are a synthetic pant that's a stretch woven kind of material, very popular in jackets and things. And here's an example of a very exotic, expensive soft shell pant that I'm wearing. But recently, last year, I found this pair of pants at Costco, and I've been wearing it in 5 months of hard construction labor work, trying to wear it out. And I have yet to put a single hole in it. More abuse than I've ever given a pair of mountaineering soft shell pants. And these came from a fishing company, Orvis, and they just called them tech hiking pants. And I found these at Costco for $15. So there's really no excuse to not have a proper pair of pants. These are ideal for things like mountaineering. Another piece of apparel I discovered about 10, 12 years ago are sun hoodies. And if you go mountaineering in the Northwest, every climbing guide will be wearing one of these. They are synthetic, ultra lightweight, polyester, synthetic, hooded shirt. And believe it or not, it's light enough that it's comfortable. It breathes enough that you can wear it just hiking in the summertime. I'm wearing that on the top here. I wore this as my only shirt for a week-long trip on the Pacific Crest Trail, hiking between Snoqualmie Pass and Stevens Pass. But the key ingredient to it is the hood. And so this is the type of torso layer I now use exclusively for any kind of sunny situations, because having that hood protecting the back of my neck and my ears and my lower face and so forth is just a really outstanding piece of equipment. Highly recommend synthetic sun hoodie as your base layer for the torso. If you already own some form of ski goggles from skiing or snowshoeing, you certainly could take them with you on the trip. You know, some form of double lens ski goggle, not a requirement by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, I've only had to use my goggles on a mountaineering trip once or twice when the weather got quite stormy. Glad I had them then, but you know, I've carried them for years and never really ever used them much. So certainly not something you have to go out and buy. Make sure all of your shells, your mittens and glove shells, have some form of leash. And if it didn't come built in from the manufacturer, make some form of leash. And even if there's no loop to tie into, often you can find the label and tie some sort of string or safety pin it into the label. But make sure your gloves and mittens have leashes. Another piece of kit that's really kind of great to have would be trekking poles. You don't have to have them. You could go to thrift stores and just buy some old aluminum fixed length ski poles. They would work great. But having adjustable ski poles can be handy. And here's an example where, again, Costco offers these trekking poles that have all kinds of baskets and features at like $40, which is a really good price for a pair of trekking poles. You're going to need some form of puffy insulated jacket, and a luxury item would be puffy socks or puffy booties. These are typically down booties or synthetic filled booties. They're great for camp wear in the tent if you have to get up in the middle of the night to relieve yourself or something like that. Certainly not a mandatory feature of a mountaineering trip, but handy to have if you have all of these other things. I also would recommend, certainly for people who are going to do this a lot, puffy pants is an option you can also find. These weigh less than 3/4 pounds total weight, and they have full length side zippers, so I can take them on and off quite easily. I use a particularly light sleeping bag. My down sleeping bag's less than 1.5 pounds total weight, and so having these puffy pants to wear at night supplementing my sleeping bag is quite handy. So these are just a few required things that I think you should key in on and make sure you have those required things along with a headlamp. But these other optional things may enhance your trip. So this is the collection of personal general mountaineering gear that I'll be providing each of you. And over the course of our on snow day and in our practice in the warehouse on pruslicking and rappelling and knot tying and putting on harnesses, then later on the on snow day, you will have learned all the different uses of this equipment. So I want to just give you a brief introduction to it today. First of all, you'll be issued and shown how to use an ice axe. This is a multi-purpose mountaineering tool, pretty classic tool. And you'll learn the idiosyncrasies of using this. The Boy Scouts of America and certainly general common public consider mountaineering a helmet sport. So as soon as you enter terrain where you're actually going to be putting on a harness and using a rope, that's the appropriate time to be wearing a climbing helmet. If you're in a Boy Scout situation, they require that you wear climbing helmets. You'll be issued a climbing harness. And on this climbing harness will be all the various tools that you need to successfully climb glaciers. a couple locking carabiners. You'll learn how to tie the rope in there. There'll be a pulley used in a crevasse rescue situation, a belay rappel device, learn how to be taught how to rappel into a crevasse, a couple of double runners for anchoring and different purposes, and some prusik rope that's used to climb out of a crevasse, as well as the harness. There'll be issued plastic double mountaineering boots, and as well as the crampons, the metal spikes that are used that lash on to the bottom of the mountaineering boots, that makes it quite possible and easy, very secure way of climbing steep, slippery, icy type slopes. And then a picket, which is a tool used to anchor into the snow, a snow anchor in the surface of the glacier. You'll learn how to use this. And lastly, you'll be linked together with others in a climbing rope. And this is a glacier specific type climbing rope in terms of its characteristics and its length. Couple of notes is that objects like the climbing rope, the harness, the helmet, the crampons will be issued to you in a Tyvek envelope. This equipment, you need to plan on having it go inside your pack, which is why I recommend higher volume pack than maybe you're used to for summer backpacking. The picket's the type of thing that would be lashed to the outside of the pack. The ice sacks will specifically be lashed to the outside of the pack. And if you're on a climb where you're going to be carrying your mountaineering boots, they need to be figured out how you're going to carry them. Best way for most people would be to extend the top lid of their pack and put them up underneath the lid of their pack and cinch it down. But things like climbing rope, helmets, hardware, and crampons, I want you to plan on having those things inside of your pack. There are a few things that are especially pertinent to a woman. Obviously, I'm not a woman, so I can't, I'm dealing with this with secondhand information that I've gotten feedback from other women. But I was on a Denali climbing expedition in 1990 in which there was the rope team leader of my rope team was a woman named Julie Culberson. And of course, in a climbing glacier situation, you're roped, you're only 40, 50 feet apart. But yet you may have to pee during the course of the day. And so she had a very, very efficient system. She simply used some sort of a feminine funnel device, and then she had a clothing that would allow her to gain quick access. So we could just stop, pause. Her modesty was maintained. She would just open the flaps on her clothing, use her funnel device, and be able to relieve herself. So if you're not currently using some sort of a funnel, excuse me, some sort of a funnel device for your outdoor activities, you might want to consider it as we approach mountaineering. Now, this next thing I'm going to recommend, much harder to get your hands on because the various manufacturers of outdoor apparel kind of comes and goes in trends. Over the last 20, 30 years, it's come in and out of style maybe 2 times, maybe 3 times. And that is some sort of a through the crotch zipper system for relieving yourself. So this is the front of this particular pair of climbing bibs, but you can see that the zipper continues all the way up the backside. Now, and is known as a through the crotch zipper relief system. This is an excellent way to maintain protection for your body parts and yet really gain quick, easy access to your ability to relieve yourself. Now, when utilizing a system like this, though, all the layers have to be set up the same way. So this is an example of some polyester long underwear bottoms in which there's a dual flap system that allows the whole thing to gain access. So a little more challenging to find this type of apparel in the marketplace. Certainly things like the long underwear or your fleece layers or maybe soft shell pants or something like that could be more modified easily. You start getting into the hard shell part of it, much more difficult to find or more challenging to modify. You may not want to need or want to do it for just a Cascade volcano climb, but if you get into the mountaineering seriously or you go on any kind of long expedition, very worthwhile to consider an investment in this type of apparel system.